Hey guys, how are you today? It is Allison from Allison Answers and Lager Counseling Services. Our guest today is very impressive to me. His name is Kevin Palmieri. I hope I'm saying that right, but he is a CFO and founder and co-host of Next Level University. It's a global top 100 self-improvement podcast with over, and in his bio it says 1250, but when I listen to his podcast, I think he's up to like 1300 and something, and it's probably more now, because this is a podcast that airs 7 days a week, and it's dedicated to this personal development and growth, this is exactly what we are all about. So I'm so excited to have Kevin come on and to learn about his success. You know, he was someone, he took his podcast from zero to a multi-six-figure business with over 1,300 episodes to date. This is quickly rising. He shares lessons learned along the way. He talks about the next level in love, in life, in health, and in wealth. And what I find about him that's so interesting is that he took his struggles of, struggling with depression and anxiety and having suicidal ideations and turned this into this incredible avenue for others to overcome, and also an avenue for I'm sure himself to overcome, utilizing what he learned to create strength in others, which is what I just love about this whole space that we're all in. Basically the way he describes himself, and I'm going to let him tell the story, but that he had it all. And then he found himself really struggling with suicidal thoughts. And he hit a rock bottom. And I'm going to allow him to explain to you how he became the badass that he is. So this is somebody that I'm really, I'm humbled to have on the show, because, I drop a podcast once a week, and, he is the next level dude. So without any further ado, I'm really super looking forward to getting to know him and learning from him. Hey, guys, how are you today? It is Allison from Allison Answers and Lager Counseling Services. So basically, you heard the whole shtick I gave you on Kevin Palmieri, except I said his name wrong. So I'm just really, really honored to have Kevin. Kevin is a successful podcaster who's created an incredible business out of really adding value to people's lives. And that's what we're all about here, to the degree that we succeed is to the degree that we can, bring people along with us. It's not lonely at the top if you bring people with you,
Mhm.
So I really appreciate this man, and I just really want us to learn from him. So the first thing first of all, I want to thank you for being here, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank
I appreciate the kind words and the compliments. It means more than you realize, and I'm just grateful to serve, as I said.
No, you deserve the compliment.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
anyhow, what I'd love to know is your backstory, because it's a pretty it's from triumph. It's from not tragedy, but from difficulty to triumph. So I would love to hear that, and if you could share how you came from where you were to where you are now. I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
that's really valuable.
Yeah, of course. I always say that I'm kind of playing with house money because I really genuinely I don't feel like I should be where I am. Now, many of those thoughts can come from limiting beliefs and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm not a natural born entrepreneur. I'm not a natural born business owner, any of that. A lot of this is very newish to me, but it all started for me, Allison. I was raised by my mom and my grandmother. So I didn't know my dad. I didn't meet my dad until I was 27. So obviously that played a role in me becoming the type of human I am and the type of man I am in positive ways, and I'm sure potentially negative ways. So other than that, fairly normal childhood. Normal is contextual, but I used to ride my bike with my friends and play outside, and I played baseball and all of that stuff. My story gets pretty interesting after high school because most of my friends said, "Hey, we're going to go to college. You should come to college." And I was like, doesn't really resonate with me. I don't really know what I want out of life, but I don't think me searching for 4 years while paying $25,000 a year is the way. I just don't think that's right for me.
I agree.
Now, for some people, You do you, and a lot of people have very good experiences at college and all that. Great. I love that for life experience. So I got a full-time job at a gas station, and I was pumping gas from 6 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon while my friends were out partying and living the dream, quote unquote. And then from there, I just kind of job hopped. I was after the gas station, I worked at a hospital. I'd clean floors, I'd clean bathrooms. Then I was a personal trainer, truck driver, forklift operator, on-call firefighter, many, many different things. But I ended up getting this unique job opportunity in an industry called weatherization. And all that means is we go into state-owned buildings and we make them more energy efficient.
Wow.
So we work in the attics, we work on the windows, we work on the doors, that type of thing. I went from making like $15 an hour to anywhere from $60 to $120 an hour.
Really?
So life got very weird for me very quickly, where I thought to myself, everything I've done in the past has paid off the way it was supposed to. This is perfect. I am going to live the dream from here on out. I made it, quote unquote. So if you looked at me, if you zoomed in on me at 25 years of age, you would see a young man who is in world-class shape because I had just won a bodybuilding show. So I was quite literally in the best shape of my life. My girlfriend was a model. I had a sports car. I had a high-paying job. I had a new apartment, all of those things. But the truth of it was what you saw on the outside and what I felt internally were just two different states. They were very, very, very different. My girlfriend ended up leaving me because I was a shell of myself, as she should have. I went all in on making even more money because I assumed that would fix all my problems. I spent the next 10 months on the road for my job. I made $100,000 at 26 with no college degree. Awesome. Except when I opened my pay stub, I didn't feel any different. You know, my bank account looked good and I had nice things, but I was the most insecure I'd ever been. I was the least confident. I was the least certain. So I realized that for most of my life, especially that year, I'd lived unconsciously. I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know why I'm doing it. The opposite of unconscious is hyperconscious. So I started a podcast called the Hyperconscious Podcast in 2017.
Wow.
And really, for me, that's where this all started. I wanted to have deep conversations like you and I are having right now. I fell in love with podcasting as I fell out of love with my job. I know this job isn't it anymore. I've made it to the top. I'm not willing to do it again, but you're a podcaster, you know, in the beginning, it's hard, right? Nobody's listening and you're not making a dime. So
yes.
I had to keep packing up and driving 6 hours to another state to work, or work overnights, or drive 14 hours from Massachusetts to Virginia. And it got to the point where I was sitting on the edge of a hotel bed contemplating suicide because I felt so stuck. I felt so trapped. I was afraid to start over. I think I felt like I should feel different than I did in that moment.
Yeah.
Luckily, Alan, my business partner, was there for me. I sent him a message and he said, Kev, over the last couple of years, your awareness, your consciousness has shifted so much, but your environments have remained the same. I think it's time for you to change your environment. So 3 or 4 months later, I left my job and went full time into being a very broke entrepreneur, podcaster, trying to figure all this out. And that was 2018. So 2018 is when I started doing this full time.
I love that. You know what I want to ask you, because I'm sure there's someone here that definitely needs to hear that moment when one of the things we'll call it is my friend wrote a book about suicide, 2 books, and one of the things she calls it is a suicide brain. And I think that most people don't know that it could happen to anyone. You know, it's happened to me. My husband died by suicide, by the way, 2 years ago.
I'm sorry.
So I'm very familiar with that. And, we run counseling centers here. We're always helping people with that. So it's, very odd for it to happen to me. But what I really want to understand, like, is there a part of you that since you were there, like, creates that drive to bring hope and inspiration to others? Is that a big part of it?
Yeah, that's a really big part of it because it's, to your point, I think, now again, I don't want to minimize anybody else's experiences, traumas, triggers, pains, or anything like that. But for me, it was more an emotional decision based in a time of uncertainty. It was emotional thoughts, unrational thoughts, where I needed some rationality of, I mean, there's a bunch of other options here, Kev.
Yes.
That. So one of, and this is transparently just trying to be vulnerable here. one of the reasons I try to talk in the way I try to talk, and I try not to overcomplicate things, and I don't want to sound super smart. I don't care about any of that. I want stuff to land. I want something I say to actually get to somebody where they say, interesting, I've never thought about it that way before. Not because I've never thought in a complicated manner, because I've never tried to break it down that simply. So that is a big driver for me. I really, I'm sure you've heard this a million times. I do want to be the person I needed. I really, really, really do, because I didn't find a lot of help in the way other people spoke to me. So yes, that definitely runs me.
I love that. I've always wanted to be the person I've needed, because,
Mhm.
and I think that that's part of like a call that happens to human beings. I don't know what you think about it, but I think that we get faced with these kinds of really like sharp, really difficult situations, but they are there for us, which I'm sure you've heard a million times,
Mhm.
instead of happening to us. And like, to me, because to have the understanding of that way of thinking, that there's no way out. The only solution is, do I want my pain to end, or do I just want my pain to end, or do I want my body to die? Like, even just have a friend who's right there to say, hey, you have, there's tomorrow, you have other choices. And I think that that's really cool that your friend was there and that you reached out to him. So
Mhm.
the only reason I highlight that is because, I feel like there's never a coincidence. You being here, saying that story, I'm sure there's someone who's going to hear that and needs to know that don't quit before the miracle happens. There's
Yeah.
always opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So tell us how you took, where you were. You started, did you start when you were 25 to do your podcast? Well, it was I don't have to
I think I was
date you or anything.
26. No, no,
Yeah,
you're good.
26.
You're good.
Is
I
that
think I was
okay?
26 when I started.
26. Yeah. So what did you do? Like, what was it? Was the driving force the helping people? Do you think that was the thing? I know
Yeah.
you talk about consistency. I believe in that, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For me in the beginning, I was listening to Joe Rogan a lot. And at the
Yes.
time, it was just super. He was just having these super deep conversations. And I remember he was sitting with his friend Duncan Trussell, and they were talking about if aliens came down and saw us get into a car, leave a house that we can't afford, to get into a car that we can't afford, to go to a place that provides the stuff, the finance for the stuff we want, but we hate. Aliens would be like, "Why are you doing things the way you're doing things?" And
Yes.
then for some reason, when I saw that video, it was like, "Oh, interesting. I'm doing that. That's what I'm doing. Okay, how do
Yes.
I break free of that?" In the
Yes.
very beginning, I wanted to have people on and I wanted to talk about real life stuff,
Yes.
not tell me about your successes. No, I want to know what scares you. I want to know
Yes.
the biggest pains, that.
Yes.
Now, the interesting thing is, I wanted to be like Joe Rogan. That's why I started this. I wanted to do that. Then I started to realize that my listener base in the beginning was primarily female.
Mm.
And it was like, why is that happening? I'm a tattooed bodybuilder who talks about mixed martial arts and I love fighting and combat. Why is that happening? And then I realized over time that it's the vulnerability, it's the authenticity. But I
Yes.
think and again, this is me complimenting myself, which is weird, but I don't
No,
mean it in a
do
negative
it. It's
way.
good.
I think there's a level of emotional maturity where you're not going to hear a lot of the dumb stuff you hear on other podcasts with two guys.
Exactly.
I was raised by women. I have a very,
Mhm.
very safe space in my heart for women, and I always aspire to do that. So once it crossed that threshold where we started to understand, oh, we have listeners who have been affected negatively by toxic masculinity. Interesting. That's when it locked in for me of, okay. I think the goal, the point, the reason for all this is so I work on my character and I become a really, really, really good man more than anything. Whatever happens with a podcast is going to happen and things are going really well. But the thing I've learned the most about and the thing that shifted the most because of it is me, because I've had to, right? With that power and that opportunity comes responsibility. And I want to be a good man and I want to be a good human. That's really the goal.
I got to tell you something, Kevin. That is so brilliant, and it's definitely true. I've noticed that myself here, because every person that comes on here, I'm here to learn.
Mm.
I'm here to grow and be a better woman, right? But to your point about the depth of a man, you know what keeps coming to me? I'm just going to say it. You want a deep conversation, I'm going to give it to you. But epigenetics.
Mm.
all I thought about when you describe being born into a home, everybody's born into a different family, even siblings, right? You're born into this home with a mom and a grandma, right? And the thoughts and the feelings that happen prior to your conception with your dad, all of that is in the sperm and the egg. It's freaking amazing. And your preparation to be with your mom and your grandma was already in play. You're sharing blood flow with your mother. So I'm thinking of all of this, and I'm thinking that then you're here to serve, and you're helping women heal, I think, from that toxic masculinity. Like you're creating a voice that women can hear, like, and transform their brain.
Yeah.
To be able to expect more. Like you're raising the standard. Am I going too far on you?
No,
you are.
I think
Yes.
one of the interesting things is when it comes to self-improvement, and again, this isn't a judgment, it's just what I've seen over the last however many years. Many people are way too spiritual.
Okay.
Not religious, just like the law of attraction, divine timing. If it's meant to be, it'll be.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, more times than not, that's a feminine perspective. Okay. The opposite of that is the toxic masculine. I don't care if you sleep. Sleep's not important. Screw your relationship. Screw your friends. Success over everything. Go hunt. That's not healthy. The middle ground of that, I think, is I want you to say positive affirmations, look in the mirror, do a power pose and say, I can do this. But you also need to figure out what are your habits, how are they pouring into your life, and how do you be more consistent? And I think that many people are looking for that middle point between everything is going to work out and nothing is going to work out. I really think everybody's looking to that, or some people are looking for that. So yeah, I would mirror what you said, and I feel very similar with that.
What you're describing, I love it, because I believe I'm really super spiritual, but I'm believe in disciplines and consistency and hard work. And I love that that's what you're about. Like you were like, and I think that there's this balance between vulnerability, right? Being completely like the truth is good enough. Like, and looking inward and like, what makes your heart sing? What makes you spark as a human being? Like, I know that you talk about, it said in the questions, and I never asked those questions on Podmatch, but I thought it was cool. Like you're saying, like, how do you help people find their purpose? I would love to hear what your take is on that, because it's related to what you're saying about spirituality and this like hunter-gatherer, do it, and hate yourself while you do it and call yourself a bitch. It's so stupid. Yeah. I'm sorry. The people who are listening would be like, Allison, no, it's true. But anyhow, to me, I'm talking a lot. I'm going to stop. But the core center of who we are, how we think, how we feel, what we're chemically addicted to emotionally creates our outcomes. Creates our behaviors, right? So, okay, I'm going off on so many different tangents.
I love it. I love it.
I'm like, my mind is going off, but I want to hear everything you feel about those things, about thoughts, feelings, core beliefs. That's one question. I'm asking two questions, and how people get to their I guess their highest self, who they want to be, right?
It's interesting because I think it's all connected, and it comes down to one fairly simple but not easy thing. Alan and I used to have this heated debate all the time. And I said, Alan, you have to understand the biggest thing in the world holding people back is lack of belief. And the second biggest issue is people like you who have 10 out of 10 belief in them don't understand they don't believe in themselves. So the advice you give them isn't going to work ever.
100%.
Just go out and fail. No, that's my biggest fear. I'm not going to do that. Go out and get rejected. You should go knock on 100 doors. That's my second biggest fear. I'm not going to do that. That's not the sound advice that many of us need. So here's my thought process. The number one way to find your purpose is to start believing in yourself more, because you will never believe in your purpose until you believe in yourself, unfortunately, right? Because here's what happens. Most of us, I believe, and this is just my experience, your purpose comes from some sort of pain. Most likely, you want to be the type of person you needed. Why? I want to be the type of person I needed. Why? Because my purpose is within my pain. It's within my experience. And it's me saying, oh, interesting. If I can solve those things for myself, I can help other people solve it for themselves. Okay. The problem with that is there's a big difference between a purpose and a vehicle. I think a lot of us have an idea of what our purpose is. We want to help a unique thing in a unique way, achieve a unique result. Then when it comes to, but I can never make money doing that, or I could never blank doing that. I can never pay the bills. I can never find a partner. I can never grow a social media. I can never grow YouTube, a podcast. I think that's where belief gets stuck. If you don't believe it's possible for you, you're not going to do it. If you don't believe it's humanly possible, you're not going to do it. If you don't believe it's worth it, you're definitely not going to do it. So what I always try to do, I'm sure you're probably doing the same exact thing, probably better, honestly, is I try to dig into the past. You're not going to find your purpose most likely looking in today. Your purpose comes from your past. And then you figure out, okay, I would like to, and just as an example, Alan's girlfriend, Emilia, amazing human being. One time she went to the Great Barrier Reef and she found out it's kind of the Great Barrier Cemetery. It's not really much of a reef anymore at all. And that for her, that pain, that awareness, that trauma became part of her purpose. She's one of the best people in the world when it comes to making sure she's recycling and composting and not littering and, reusable stuff. Her purpose, quote unquote, came from her pain. And I think a lot of us have to understand that we're so focused on what can we take today and bring into the future, when in reality, what we're going to bring into the future is usually coming from our past. So most of our beliefs are not chosen. They're chosen for us. And then we just double down, triple down, quadruple down on them. And then it becomes the recent and relevant proof that we live through. The thoughts, the same thing. I think it's just I think most of us just kind of tap into what is the most recent and relevant thought we have. I can't do it. Not smart enough, not pretty enough. But when somebody comes in and breaks that through allowing you to borrow belief, that's when things start to unpack a little bit, because it's like, Allison, what if you're wrong though? Like, what if you're not? What if you are beautiful and you just haven't thought you're beautiful for your entire life? Therefore, even if somebody told you you're beautiful, you wouldn't believe it. Therefore, you can never accept a compliment. Therefore, you attracted negativity into your life. How could that one belief affect everything that's ever happened to you? Okay, how do we start refocusing and realigning that belief with something more constructive? Does that answer anything you asked?
It answers a lot. And I have so many, I want to go with you like on this. No, because so much of what you're saying is so, I resonate with. So when you're saying this, so now if I believe something, that is that is what I create. Right. So it's like, I'm going to create everything I believe. But now let me zoom out. That's what I try to ask people to do. Zoom out. And now this awareness of knowing that my belief system is what is dictating my life. Right. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So now if I zoom out and at least I know that my belief system is creating my life, and it could be wrong, like what you just said. Like, to open up that awareness. I love to do it with neuroscience and quantum physics, because people who don't believe, they may need facts. Like, this is what's happening in your brain. Your brain will not let in any data that does not resonate with what you already believe. So you're going to have to override that.
Yep.
So now this is my question. This is going to be a big one.
I love it.
You'd be like, holy shit, Allison, but you got seven podcasts a week. So like, you can do this.
I'm going to try.
All right. Okay. So this is what I think. All right. I want to know how these go together, because I believe they do. My thought is this: everything I create comes from not from, okay. I don't want to, because I'm not challenging what you're saying. I just want to put it together. Please. So everything I create, I believe, is I'm creating into the unpredictable. So I'm creating things that I've never done, because I'm a visionary, right? So I'm creating things I haven't done with the resources that I currently have. And they're things that I may not believe, but I will bypass that and create into the future. So like, a lot of times people will say, oh, if you're taking the past and trying to create the future, you're just repeating the past. But I know you don't mean that. I know you don't, because I can tell, because you're smart, and I know that. Yeah. So it's like, I think like our thoughts are on a loop, right? That, 91% of our thoughts are the same thoughts we thought yesterday, right? And and they're based in our belief system, and then we're creating this same yesterday, but with different cast of characters, right? And I'm sure that I'm just preaching to the choir, right? But how do you explain, or you're taking a painful moment, like, which that's what I've done. I take pain and I create goodness for other people. Right. And you're doing that. So tell me how you put all of that together. Is this a complicated question? I think it is. Once I got into it, I'm like, shit, I'm tangled up.
No, you're good. You're good. I think at the end of the day, the difference between a constructive experience and a destructive experience is what somebody does around it after it. So it's almost like, I think for a lot of people, they look back on the past and they avoid it. It's like, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to look into that. Now, again, from many places, you should make sure you do that with a professional, not by yourself, and not after you listen to a podcast episode with me.
Don't do this at home.
Yeah, that's fair. But that becomes the skeleton in the closet that you're never, ever, ever willing to look at. But that's the thing. That is where the gold is hidden. The gold is hidden.
I love it.
Where you want to look. Yeah, right. So that's all I mean is there's something in your past that is quite literally hinging on whether or not you accomplish what you want in the future. You just might not want to look there yet.
Oh, I love it. That's what I get it, because it's like you dig for gold.
Yes.
So like people will come in here, like for therapy, right? They come in and they have all these difficulty, right? But we see the gold. Like, what is that creating in you?
Yeah.
So it's like, we can create a victim, not us, but like I could be a victim of all the different shit that's happened in my life, or I could be like, I'm going to take that, and now I'm going to throw it out on the table. I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to make something good out of it. I'm going to correct it.
Yeah.
Outside of me, right? Is that what you mean?
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you can ever correct it truly, but it's like
not us.
Right. My relationship with my past is drastically different when I realize now that it's serving me.
I love it. I believe that.
Right? The suicidal ideations, the relationships that have failed, the growing up without a dad, like that is all serving me now. Now, and I'll preface, that's 6 years of really, really, really hard work every single day, looking in mirrors that I didn't want to look at, having awarenesses that I don't know if I was even ready for, meeting my dad and realizing, oh my goodness, you are a child. And I am way, way, way more self-aware than you are. Allowing me to have the empathy that my dad didn't know. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. I've been villainizing this person and giving them such a large part in my movie when in reality, they shouldn't have been there at all. Maybe they get a ticket to the movie. You can get a ticket, but you're not in the cast. You don't have to be. That level of, oh, that thing that held me back for so long, I feel so free to now. But that also came with, again, this is like the highlight reel. There's a lot of dark nights crying into the pillow saying, oh my goodness, I'm unloved and all that, 1,000%. But I think the overall thing that we're going for here is there is a lot of advantage that can come from the adversity. But you have to dig into the adversity and figure out, besides what I remember and besides what I think it was, what was actually there for me? Because there's probably something.
I appreciate what you're saying so much. That vulnerability, like your dad, you separated him from your identity and your future by going back. And I think that that's the important key, because I think a lot of us, even when you mention like the law of attraction and all these things, like, oh, don't allow yourself to feel into the future. That's a lot of what law of attraction will say. But I think that, as a therapist and all that we do here, doing that shadow, that dark work behind the scenes, nobody sees. I mean, no matter how long I live, for whatever reason, I have to continually go back and see the story that I've, hidden myself from, and feel into it and feel terrified, honestly. Like, and really like, and hear all the things that I believe are wrong with me when I'm feeling that, and be able to change the story, right?
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
future. It's,
Yeah.
this conversation is actually helping me because, like, I mean, that even just recently I've gone into like, I'm like, shit, I've been doing this forever. Like, if anybody looked at me on the outside, like, she's got it together. She helps people, but, it's really, we're all human,
Yeah.
and that's, I think, returning to the place where, am I lovable?
Mm.
Like, that is such a big, I mean, it sounds cushy. I don't know. What do
Yeah.
you think of that? Curious.
I think I have a very weird relationship with that because for a long time, I didn't feel lovable.
Yeah, me too.
And it was like, I think candidly, that's the reason not as much now, but I was so into fitness. There's a reason.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
got that.
if I can look better than everybody else, I might get more love.
Yeah.
And I was very rewarded for my body, and I worked very hard for that.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was the insecurities of I'm 5'4". That has always bothered me. I can pretend it doesn't. It sucks. I hate it. I hate it. I still hate it. So what can I do to get love there? Make a lot of money. Interesting. I'm sure you've seen the Tony Robbins TED Talk about the 6 basic human needs.
Yeah.
If not, it's world class for you, for all those listening. But we all find a way to get our needs met.
Yes.
And I was really good at getting significance from looking good physically, making a lot of money, being funny, whatever it is. I always found a way to get love. I just didn't know if I actually received it. Now it's interesting where I was talking to my wife about this last night. She's been with me since we weren't making any money. She had to pay rent. Yeah. She's the sweetest. She is my rock. She's my safe place. She is my warmth. But now I always feel loved because even when I was below low, I was loved. So I understand that there's a fine line between conditional love and unconditional love, obviously. But in my relationship, I feel like the level of unconditional is as high as you can really get without it being dangerous.
Yeah.
So now, but here's the other thing. Again, going back to like self-worth, if you have a low level of self-worth, I don't know if you'll ever truly feel like people do love you because you don't love yourself.
Exactly.
And how do you receive what you do not believe? I have talked with so many people behind the scenes that are beautiful, magazines, models, supermodels, cheerleaders. But when you get behind the scenes, they don't think they're any of those things.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost to my original kind of story, the delta between your internal state and the external state of expectations is what a lot of people are struggling with. And I think that's where the not understanding how to feel love can come from.
It's really so true. And what stands out to me that you said is that you can be receiving all kinds of love. And it's just that that dopamine shot, you get a dopaminergic surge, and then you're like, you feel that energy, and then it goes until the next one. And I just, what you were saying is, it really does matter how much you love yourself. I had this moment, and it was a spiritual moment, I have to say, but it was really profound because if anybody looks at me, they think that, oh, she has her purpose. She's got, I'm successful, whatever, but I was like in like a meditation, and I kept saying, what is my purpose? And like, I knew my other parts were saying, your purpose, but I'm like, no, my like soul, like, what is my purpose? Who am I? I was really like wrestling with it. And I just heard this, it just came to me like a knowing, just came to me. And it was, you have only one and then two purposes. That's it. It's very simple. And I heard you talk about simplicity before, that when the answer comes in its simplest form, I feel like it is God or whatever you believe. Like, I really believe that. So the answer that came to me was, your only purpose is first to know your lovability. That's it. Nothing else. then you are to help other people know theirs.
Mm.
Bam. Now, is that not simple?
It's very simple.
But it's very, if you think about what you're doing, like you are doing that. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you really consider, like, you're sharing, you're helping people understand their value, right? No?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think my goal is to help somebody accurately understand themselves as a human being, at a
Love
human
that.
level. And
Love it.
here's the interesting thing. Nobody can. That's
Yep.
the interesting thing, is you're either under or over at all times, most likely, because hitting the nail on the head, I think, is impossible, because we're always growing, and we're always evolving, and we're always moving, and we have inputs and outputs. So the most accurately you can is, like, some people believe in themselves maybe too much. That's, I'm not in a bad way.
Yeah.
There are also people who have delusionally high self-worth, who think they're entitled to certain things.
Yeah.
That's not serving you. I know you think it is, but that's a defense
Yeah.
mechanism. It's not serving you.
Right.
Just like not believing in yourself at all, or having no self-worth, like a very low level, that's not serving you either.
Yeah.
I don't aspire to be the person who has a high level of self-belief or a high level of self-worth. I aspire to have an accurate one.
That's so well put.
I appreciate that.
No, it is. You know why? Because I feel like my highest love for myself would be in my darkest, my vulnerability. Like, I feel like, don't you love people when they're vulnerable? Like, don't you feel more connected and closer to them?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost like being able to just be what we are.
It's
right?
real. You can't connect with something you don't resonate with.
No.
Right.
And
I
like,
think when,
we're all trying to run from that.
of course, when we hear the word resonate, that comes from resonance, and resonance is a wavelength. So if you think of like something that, if you ever heard somebody say, like, I'm on the same wavelength as you, all that means is we're resonating on the same frequency. It's like you and I in this conversation right now. If the camera turned off, we would just keep going like this. It'd just keep going and going and going, because you and I are resonating at a very similar frequency.
You know, it's interesting when they study a room, and I want to make sure I respect your time. We have a few minutes, but when they study a room, I do a lot of like training with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but yeah. So they measure the energy in the room and our brain waves and everything. They put stuff on our heads and stuff. But what it shows, and it's fascinating, is that we all end up, our waves all end up coinciding. So you know how like women, they get their menstrual cycle ends up being together, you know, at the same pace, same time. It's the same thing with our brain waves, which is fascinating. And you can actually feel it when you go in a room, like that something's like it's like almost like a wave that got interrupted. Like it's like incoherent, you know, and then you feel when it's flowing, which is so cool. And I think being self-aware of that, knowing your spark, knowing what makes your heart sing, all of those things. I just did this video. I should let you talk, but I'm dying to tell you this. But, so it's our wave, but I talk so much, and I don't know why I'm drawn to this, but the apple seed fascinates me because there's so much information in there. And I feel like I kind of relate to the apple seed. It's like, so that like everything's in there, like the spark, whatever we are, right? And then it becomes a tree, but then that tree, you know, gives food and apples to others. And it's just an incredible, to me, it's fascinating. So I feel like, you know, I don't even know how I lost my train of thought. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know why I said that. The apple seed floated by my mind and I had to just share it.
No, I love it.
So amazing.
I love it.
We're that. We have like these, I feel like we have all these like, tell me what you think, and then we'll stop.
Yeah.
Those little
I'm good to run. I have a meeting. So I told you 12:45. I'm happy to go for another. I got another 15 after that.
Well, let me tell you why. I know why you did that, because I would do the same damn thing. Because you know, you don't have any idea who I am, and I could be batshit crazy. Like, I
researched, Allison. I researched. I looked you up on social. No.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, okay. Of course.
There you go. That's good. Well, so then you definitely wanted to stop at 45. I'm just kidding.
No, that's why so for the listeners, I told Allison before, I said, hey, I know you like to go a little bit longer. We're only scheduled for 45. Do you want to go longer? Because I'd love to. I knew this was going to happen. But you know what? Like,
Yeah, I have to split episodes into 2, whatever. I have to learn from you. I should get 7 episodes a week.
No,
What was I
never.
just gonna say?
We were talking about my thoughts on the apple. The apple
Oh, yeah,
seed.
no. Oh, yeah, yeah. I know exactly what I wanted to ask you.
Please.
So, inside of us,
Mm.
like the seed, like the apple, I believe. Now, I have nothing to base my belief on except for my own belief. And I love believing this. Don't ruin it. I'm just kidding. So, so I believe inside of us that we have all these sparks of like desire. What makes us light up? What makes us tear up? What makes us all of those things? What makes us, when just something happens or like the way the air is, you're like, wow. I believe that's inside of us, like the seed.
Mm.
I'm just curious, do you believe like things like desire or things that just light us up are a part of like where we're supposed to go? I believe like if we follow where our heart sings, not doing hard work, okay? Don't, I'm a hard worker and I get up and I work out and all that shit. But do you believe that if you follow that, you're leading towards success?
I would say if you follow that, you're leading towards fulfillment.
Cool. I love that.
Which I
It's a
think for
great
most
answer.
of us, that is, yeah, I think for most of us, that is success. The problem is the mud. There is a level of mud between finding fulfillment and then finding the results of your fulfillment in terms of real life results.
Yeah, like 3D world shit.
It's hard to recognize unless I'm fulfilled. I can't tell if you're fulfilled. But if you post say you post a picture on the beach next to a Lamborghini, I might think you're super happy. And I might say, I aspire to have what Allison has, even though you might have something that I can't see yet. So I think when you chase, let's put it this way, my life is the most challenging it's ever been.
Okay.
I do 8 episodes a week. I go to the gym 6 times a week. I'm on 10 other podcasts, right? We have a large business. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. But I'm the most fulfilled I've ever been because I'm the most on purpose I've ever been. That came from me saying, I like Joe Rogan. I've always wanted to talk into a microphone. I like rapping. I don't know. Let me give this podcast thing a try. Then once you put your head like in that room, you can start to see other stuff. It's like, oh, wow, women listen to us. What does that mean about me? Oh, I'm pretty vulnerable. Okay, let me be more vulnerable. All right, cool. Then you see more. So to your point, it's almost like when you start following a purpose, a pull, a passion, a spark, an ignition, you then get to see like what the next level of that is. And then you say,
yes.
oh, I'm in on that. Oh, I can speak on stage too. Interesting. That was never the plan.
Yes.
Going on podcast, never the plan.
Yes.
Doing a lot of the stuff I'm doing was never the plan, but it's all part and in alignment with the purpose. So yeah, I would say when you have that, you have to trust the intuition. You have to trust the pull, and you have to trust that there's something on the other side of it, even though it might not be what you thought it was. And even though it might not be what you think you need next, is what I would say.
I love that so much. I so agree with you. I feel like when I go back a bit to like, I'm like a real person of faith, but it's like, a little different than other things, but it's almost like I feel like that first step in order to like when you hear a thing, like you listened to that little pull. I just 100% believe that. I think that opens up the next door and the next door. Like, and I had this like almost, I don't know what you would call it. I guess it's a vision. I just saw it, it wasn't like some woo experience. I just saw it and it was true. And it was when I was writing my book, it was like this thing. I saw a big, huge door over like this huge door. And it was like almost felt like bolted, and it on the top, it said truth. And and then I saw that if I walked through the door, the truth, being me, and then the door opened, there were like a sea of doors. Like opportunity and just like all different things. And I think it's cool, like almost like I feel like knowing what your heart resonates with and knowing that intuition, like that intuitive part, like being able to go, okay, let me just, let me put my toe in that water.
Yeah.
And then like, you can pivot, but at the same time being consistent.
Yeah.
That's another question I want to ask you. This is a fun. All right. Okay. Being consistent, disciplined, getting up. I mean, I believe in that. I do that. Habits, habit stacking, but creating them, not letting them just be handed to me like a passive recipient of whatever's thrown in my lap. Right. So now, but how? So when you're listening to your intuition, how do you listen to that? Like that knowing, and because we're talking about spirituality and that other like finding that balance. How do you know when to pivot away from something or to grind through, because you know that on the other side, right? And that's a great question just to ask myself, right?
Yeah, that's transparently, that is a very hard question to answer because it depends on your ability to reverse engineer outcomes.
Yep.
Some people I would say, honestly, this is the truth. Many people need to hire somebody who's already done what they're doing. That's just, I'll put that out there.
Somebody who's already done what they're doing.
Yes. Because I've already done 6 years of what I thought was going to work, but maybe didn't, or what I didn't think was going to work, but did. So that's part one. I think the other part of it is you have to figure out, okay, so if we were to break it down into like a timeline, what are my dreams? Like 10 plus years. Okay. All right. Those are my dreams. Okay. What's my like goal? Like, what do I want to accomplish this year? Okay. All right. What about like a mile mark? Like, what do I want to accomplish this quarter? Okay. Let me focus on that. Now, what do I have to do every day to get it? That's how I do it. Yes. And then I try to go from the intuition of understand that almost everything is delayed more than you think.
Did you say delayed?
Delayed. Yeah. There's a delta between action and results that, depending on the size of the results you want, are bigger or smaller. Yes. So it's almost like, this is what I would say. Do something for a long enough period of time. Let's just say do something every day for 2 months. Write down a list of 10 results you're getting. And if you're getting results, but you're not necessarily getting the result you started for, you're still making more progress than you realized. And then try to connect. Okay, well, I started a podcast because I wanted to make money, but I'm not making any money, but I'm connecting with more people. And when I connect with people, they're telling me their problems. And when they tell me their problems, I understand them at a deeper level so I can make better episodes. When I make better episodes, I get more listens. And then I also wanted to do coaching so I could make money with that eventually. Oh, interesting. I could make money from this if I keep doing what I'm doing.
Yes, you see the value.
You see, it's going. Yeah, I think there's a big difference between holistic value and specific value. Yes. Right? Just as an example, I had a client message me today. He said, how much should I charge for my speaking engagements? And I was like, I don't know. How much are you charging now? He's like, I'm charging whatever it was, $500 an hour. I was like, okay, are you getting results? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right, keep doing that until you get to the point where you have enough of that where you can say, I'm gonna say 1,000, see what happens. Because holistically, well-roundedness, all connectedness, when you do a speech, even if it's for free, you might end up getting clients that pay you. So 100%. Is it really a free speech or is it a paid speech on the back end? 100%. But you'll never know until you start it, you see the specific results, and then figure out if those results are worth it for you to keep going. That's the best way to answer it I can think of right now.
I love that. We go and we spend like days like going over our wins for the year and then what our annual goals are, and then we reverse engineer everything down to the day, the week, like we really do it. But you know what, and just to piggyback on what you're saying, I went on a business trip, and it was great. It was a great trip, but I just in 5 minutes I met a woman who was like a girlfriend of a speaker there, and we just resonated immediately. And then that was it. It was a very short conversation. She later asked me to come on her television show because she had a television show, and it's really a cool show. But anyhow, she asked me to come on her television show, and it was great. I loved it. So that's like, a benefit, but I never even with my podcast even think of making money. It's not even on my radar. And she just asked me, she just contacted me and asked me to take a prime spot to start a television show on her network. But anyhow, so you see that? Like, I'm not thinking of that, but that moment, that connection, like, I don't chase a sale, you know, a relationship. I chase relationships.
You chase purpose.
Yeah.
You would never have been at that event if it wasn't for your purpose. That's it.
Yeah.
Your purpose created that opportunity. Just then how do you connect it? I think that's the interesting thing, is in the beginning, when you're not getting those results, you're still getting results. You just can't see them yet.
Yes. Where we are today, which I know you know this, where we are today is a result of where we were 90 days ago, you know, what we were doing. So like when I notice like, oh, the last week I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling less motivated, I want to look back at where was I? What was I building? You know, so I think it's, to your point, what I'm doing today is going to be producing something 3, 6, 9 months down the road. I do think that when we do something positive, we see the results farther down. But when we do something negative, we see the results sooner. Do you think so?
One of my favorite quotes, and this, when people say like, what has made the biggest difference? What, you know, the biggest awareness? From day to day, progress is invisible. Did you go to the gym yesterday, Allison?
Love it.
Did you go to the gym? Did anything change?
No, I tell people that all the time.
Right? That.
Yes.
From day to day, progress is invisible. It ceases to exist visually. From year to year, progress is impossible to miss. Positive or negative. So I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, think about it. Like smoking, you could smoke for 60 years and not have an issue that you know. So I think it's just that. I think from day to day, nothing happens. From year to year, everything does. Positive or negative is what I would say.
I love that, because, you know, we do a lot of eating disorders here. I had an eating disorder. I was hospitalized for it when I was, you know, a lot younger. And one of the things that really helped me was to know today, whatever I do, you know, with food, exercise, that nothing, because the mind, you know, really believes that, okay, I do this thing now I don't see results, so now I'm going to go eat like 4 cakes. It's just like, and hate myself, right?
Yeah.
That was one of my biggest takeaways. We are hanging up because I could see I'm a studier of people, I noticed. Okay, so
I'd love to. You want to have me back in the future? I'll come back.
I do. Week. I adore you. I want you to like, you'll come on my TV show.
I'm in.
You will, right?
100%.
Okay, so Mr. Kevin Palmieri, I said it right?
You did.
It is an absolute pleasure to meet you, to get to know you, to have a conversation with you. I know that everybody gained so much from hearing you speak. I mean, you really have so much to offer. And I know that they're going to listen to your show 7 days a week, and they should.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So is there any, I mean, we're going to have everything in the show notes, but how could people find you? And is there anything else you'd like to just say?
I always say, just check out the show if you're interested in talks like this. Next Level University on all the platforms, or on YouTube as well. And then if you want to connect with me, just shoot me a message on Instagram. My handle is @NeverQuitKid.
Never Quit Kid. Love it. You are the best. It's a wrap. Goodbye.